FCA Compliant Complaint Handling. Hello, I'm Stephen Fairclough and I deliver FCA Compliant Complaint Handling for Redcliffe Training. This is a live webinar split over 2 days, but of course, if you want an in-house version, then we can deliver that in 1 day and focus specifically on the content that you want to see. Let me tell you a little bit about the agenda of the course. Within the 2 half days, so 3.5 hours each, we want to give people a broad overview of the complaint handling environment, the challenges that we face, and the position we need to be in as a result of building out this framework. So what we'll do, we'll take people through what complaints means in a regulated world, definitions, eligibility, etc. Knowing a little bit more about the regulator's view, how they position the expectations on firms compared to clients. And of course, we need to look at the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on complainants and complaint handling within firms as well. We'll take people through the regulatory environment in a little bit more detail. One of the key handbooks that we'll look at is, of course, dispute resolution, and we'll consider the expected procedures, timeframes that are in place for that, as well as looking at some of the often lesser rules around time barring, forwarding complaints, etc. We'll share a range of regulatory identified good practices, but also the barriers to effective complaint handling, application of the rules, cultural and operational challenges, and specific issues the regulators identified around MI production and root cause analysis. Thinking about how we build an effective framework within our firms, and whether that's holistically nose to tail throughout the process of identifying through to resolving and completing the root cause analysis and post-event analysis of business process, or whether it's focused specifically on particular areas of interest to you. We'll cover off a whole range of views and lenses to look through at how we have an effective environment. Senior managers and reasonable steps will be referenced in many training courses, we understand. So we will look at how we can use evidence of our complaint handling processes and controls as evidence that senior managers have taken reasonable steps to control their business appropriately. We'll look at culture, behavior, attitude. How do you measure? How do you drive the right messages, the right tone from the top? And getting into a little bit about what customers expect and the root cause analysis that we're expected to do. Of course, we'll look at summary resolutions, 3 working days, and what's expected of us as we take longer than the 3 days, up to 8 weeks to deliver complaint resolution. Think also, I guess, perhaps a growth industry has been the use of complaints on social media. Hopefully it will remain as limited as it is. We'll look at how you handle that, some good practices, bringing it back into a more controllable environment. But many of us will be receiving our complaints or queries and expressions of dissatisfaction over the telephone. So it's only appropriate that our staff understand what to listen for, how to identify, how to recognize, how to question and elicit more information. But also think about some of the emotional impact that complainants can have on our staff. So we'll think about some of the challenges and be more explicit in recognizing those, I think. Moving on to day 2 of the session, obviously participants can reflect on the day 1 content and bring their queries and questions to the event on day 2. But we'll start with the angriest caller ever, and the valuable impact of this is around recognizing the emotions, the cycles, the behaviors, the attitudes, and what we can do to influence, change and direct behaviors. But it also brings people together. We share some examples of the angriest customers we've ever had. So you can hear about the time a client threatened to break my legs because they felt the service hadn't been to the standard they expected. And one of my participants dealt with a complaint where they've managed to get one of their clients court-martialed, which is always an interesting approach. We'll think about the skills needed to deal with these situations. both client-facing and middle and back office in terms of the investigations and the root cause analysis. So what skills do we need? Where can we develop? And we'll signpost towards some action planning for those people who want it that isn't appropriate for everybody, and we won't build out a full action plan within the session. But we will signpost. I think it's useful to have as a debrief with attendees after the course. How should we respond when we're wrong? Really stepping up to the plate, focus on fixing and not the allocating blame, and how we manage that relationship with our client. But perhaps the crux of the whole process, and where most firms recognize there's most risk, is that process of looking at the evidence and deciding whether we're going to uphold or reject. And we'll feed into participants a range of considerations around how you reach that conclusion and evidence that conclusion, so when it's subject to future scrutiny, it will pass muster. We'll think about how we communicate that with our clients as well. So with empathy, with clarity, and bringing in a range of skills to help close out the client experience in as positive way as possible. We do want to create real satisfaction with our clients. We want to turn them into an advocate for our business. And there's elements of that process where we can involve the client and help them to feel as though they're part of the solution rather than they're being processed. So we'll cover those points and wrap up with some information about the financial ombudsman as well. So understanding their purpose and process, look at some case studies of what they've found, so we can help people calibrate a little bit in terms of how firms could have responded to complaints better before the Ombudsman got involved, and give people an overall sense of what's happening with the Ombudsman in terms of maximum awards and the changes in recent years. So overall, the 2 half days from the public course, focusing on UK regulatory requirements and the FCA expectations for complaints handling. But as I say, we can amend or adjust that specifically for your particular organisation. There'll be a lot of interaction throughout. We want people to share their examples, their challenges, their successes and their fears as well. We'll use polls to really gauge attendees' understanding and perception of different issues throughout the process. We'll use case studies, we'll use the Financial Ombudsman Service materials, as well as regulatory publications. And we've got a selection of videos in there to think about different ways of handling or approaching some of the conversations with clients. And of course, exercises, group discussions, getting the people involved, and learning from each other and seeing a range of different views to help inform the decisions that they'll take when they get back to their office or when they're back within their own organisations. Because it's a live webinar, there'll be ongoing questions and answers with me. I almost always tell people to try and arrange their diary, so if they want to stay on and have some one-to-one question times at the end, we can certainly do that too. So I hope you found this introduction to FCA Compliant Complaint Handling useful. If you'd like any more information, please get in touch using the contact details on your screen now. Thank you.